Week 6 of the NFL season was highlighted by a couple of big-time matchups, including an early slate kickoff in Baltimore between the 4-2 Ravens and the 5-1 Lions. Detroit came into this matchup on a high from having won 4 straight, all by 14 points or more. Meanwhile, Baltimore could have easily been undefeated if not for constantly shooting themselves in the foot with some horrible drops and turnovers, poor red zone efficiency on offense, allowing one big play on defense in the worst moment, and even a blatant missed penalty in overtime. However, for anybody watching, you could tell that a performance like Sunday was in the making when this group would put it all together, and when the Lions got to M&T Bank Stadium, this highly anticipated matchup turned into an absolute beatdown, with the Ravens winning 38-6. I want to break down what exactly happened, and to limit myself from basically rewatching the entire game again, I chose 5 or 6 plays on offense and defense each to summarize how Baltimore overwhelmed their opponents. Let's dive in. Taking away a kneel down to end the first half, Baltimore scored touchdowns on 5 of the first 6 drives, including the first possession following halftime, with the only stop coming on a self-inflicted fumble at the fringe of the Lions' red zone yet again. They averaged 9.1 yards per play. Quarterback Lamar Jackson had a perfect passer rating entering the fourth quarter, and 9 different guys logged over 30 scrimmage yards. This is the second play from scrimmage here, and we saw right away that there were more wrinkles to this operation in order to create easy opportunities than we have been used to. Ravens come out in the 3-by-1 set with what is listed as a fullback in Patrick Ricard at tight end here, so this on paper is 20 personnel, and they've got these receivers in kind of a reduced split here. They bring rookie Zay Flowers across on a jet motion and just have him working out into the flats. The Lions are nickel and they react by bumping over the safety here. So now he has to work out with Zay as they be running a cover 3 on a traditional drop back. Meanwhile, the Ravens are running a triple option RPO as they have a power read towards the strong side with the center and backs at tackle pulling as they kick out and then wrap around the place at backer. But then Lamar reads this backs at defensive end in Aiden Hutchinson, and as he crashes, the quarterback will pull the ball. Yet then he has that extra option as the linebacker to his side comes downhill to just flip it to Odell Beckham Jr. on a little spot route to basically replace that voided space, and he gets an easy 11 yards. Here's the end zone angle on this, but you'll see that the camera guy can't even actually follow what's going on. Really cool design, and a way to get the offense going here with an easy completion and easy first down to get the day going. Baltimore hits a deep crosser to Zay off play action from heavy personnel on the very next snap, but then they have their first big decision to make on a 4th and 1 from the 7-yard line, and I love that they went for it here, because thinking back to 2019 by now, when the Ravens were the number 1 seed in the AFC and Lamar won league MVP, they overwhelmed their opponents with the situational aggressiveness, and so far this season I thought head coach John Harbaugh had been too conservative at times. Ravens come out in 22 personnel, jumbo set, with 2 tight ends to the offense's right side, and Patrick Ricard the fullback once again in this offset alignment on the other end. Lamar puts him in motion just before the snap, and he'll end up on a kickout against Hutchinson, with the backs at guard this time responsible for the plays at backer on a downhill power play. But actually offensive coordinator Todd Monken dresses this up beautifully, only for Lamar to actually pull the ball on a naked keeper. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley allows the backs at defensive end to crash down the line. And as the linebacker over to that side also chases the fake, he can progress to safety Kirby Joseph, the only guy who actually has the time and is able to recognize where the ball is going. But his reward ends up being Stanley driving him off the screen and into a locker room, while Lamar walks in for the easy touchdown, taking advantage of how aggressive this then number 1 ranked Lions defense versus the run has been up front all season. I have to show this 2-play sequence from the 3rd touchdown drive here, because it's a similar formation and they immediately take advantage of something that the Lions showed a few plays earlier. So first, and I love the design, the Ravens come out in an ace set from 21 personnel, so Mark Andrews and Ricard to either edge of the offensive tackles, and 2 wide receivers in reduced splits. And what they'll do is go soft play action from pistol, run a switch to the top where they've got their post routes and a will coming in behind it, and then bring OBJ across on an over route, while Ricard breaks out to the flats off a delayed release. Meanwhile, the Lions have cover 3 here, where these linebackers in the middle have to respect the fake just enough to not blindly fall underneath the crosser that is going to come in behind them. And what I want you to note here is the down safety Tracy Walker lined up outside of Ricard, auto-checking into a blitz off the edge as he reads the 7-man pass pro initially, just as we get to the next play then. So let's watch it unfold. Linebackers freeze a little bit, crosser comes in behind them, OBJ catches is uncontested and gets taken down, but not after easily picking up the first down. You'll see from the end zone view, Lamar really hangs in there and then releases this ball over the head of the linebackers as he's about to take a hit from the unblocked rusher. Great play. We get a beautiful connection between Lamar and Zay Flowers to convert 3rd and long on a deep out route versus quarters. Baltimore now motions Ricard across to basically give them that same look in ace that they had earlier, with Andrews on the other end of the line, but now have both those receivers at the top. This time the Ravens fake inside zone to the left from shotgun and have the back release out into the flats off that, as here they actually end up in just a 5-man pass pro, getting all 5 eligibles out there and creating those deep levels, which almost couldn't draw here because of how deep the route development is. With Andrews on this deep out, Say coming across on what I'd call a flat post, and Bateman then on a deep in cut coming in behind that. But the key element here is Ricard, once again was the late release, then working straight up the field. Only this time you can see that the Lions have the safety Walker lined up over Andrews, and the 2 corners lined up over those 2 receivers, which is a strong tell for man coverage, and most likely cover 1, so this safety is going to be roaming in the middle of the field. And since we just saw Detroit's bring pressure from the side the back didn't go to, this linebacker will see Ricard stay into block initially and auto-check into a blitz himself, which as we let this roll, will leave the fullback uncovered and he rips off an easy 28 yards, while Lamar once again stands in strong, knowing the heat is coming in on him. That is coming out of the break, by the way, from the first to the second quarter, so clearly Todd Monken had a discussion with his guys. So once again, as we watch this, blitz is coming, Ricard basically replaces him in all that voided space. Lamar stands in, flips it to him, and they just had those solutions to punish what they saw on the first play of the drive, so that's really great stuff. We go back to easy passes created out of heavy personnel sets for Baltimore, as this time they're in 22 with a bunch to the right over here, into the boundary, and the tailback also flanked that way in the shotgun. The Lions don't even actually match with base personnel, sticking a nickel and dropping the backside safety down into the box. But the Ravens understand that everybody packed in here has to attack downhill, because what they'll do here is fake quarterback sweep towards the strong side and hit a wide open Andrews on the corner route right behind it. Theoretically, Detroit is in cover 3 again, and the corner would be responsible for falling underneath this, but how in the world is he supposed to do that when he has a couple of guys pulling out to the sideline, and he's responsible for coming down and funneling this ball back inside as the contain player here. The only guy who even has a chance here theoretically of making an impact is the deep middle safety Kirby Joseph. And as we watch this unfold, he ends up actually stopping the tight end just short before they ultimately punch it in anyway. But with a deep in cut on the backside and already being lined up on the hash, he can't just blindly fly over there. So watch this from the end zone now. Good job by Lamar of drawing the defense in by making himself look like a runner all the way before he pulls back and lofts this to the wide open Andrews for 22 yards and setting him up with goal to go. This final one is a bit weird because I'm 95% sure this isn't actually what Todd Monken drew up here. The Ravens are back in an ace set with Ricard as the offset tight end on the left side, and once again they'll try to bring in him short motion in order to get him involved as a kick out on the edge defender, along with left guard John Simpson pulling for a lead block as they call up this GF Power RPO with Gus Edwards yet again. This time Baltimore brings the 2 eligibles from the boundary across at different levels here, along with a deep comeback by the backside receiver, which basically is off the table. Lamar should really hand this ball off as we see this backside edge defender staying home for him. But instead of panicking and turning a broken play into a potentially catastrophic one, as the Ravens have done way too many times throughout the first 1.5 months, he works towards where Edwards was supposed to go and knows he has his back ultimately, releasing out into the flats. But just more so to carry out the fake here, he hits him on the move, and then he has nobody in front of him as the Lions were in cover 3 once more. And number 34, as we'll see here in a second, stepped down versus the run. So once again, Broken play, but making magic out of it, and the Gus Bus rips off 80 yards before 2 plays later, Lamar throws another touchdown to Mark Andrews to put him up by 5 touchdowns. And I just had to throw this in here. Almost everybody has seen this by now, but let's just appreciate Lamar escaping the pocket to the right here after he kind of runs himself into trouble initially, and then finding Nelson Aguilar working across where he's originally going towards. Shout out to the big boys up front, giving him time here, as we'll see in a second. Then as he scrambles out to the right to put on the brakes here against these 2 pursuing defenders, find his receiver on the secondary route, and to hit this throw is just insane. So now let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. And since the Ravens stepped on the gas as much as they did to put the Lions into catch-up mode, these all ended up being key pass plays. Detroit didn't gain a first down until midway through the second quarter, while they did get a touchdown to start the fourth quarter on a long run because their opponents were all playing pass. They only ran 4 plays total inside the opposing 20-yard line, and Baltimore held them to 6 points on the day. It's the game's first third down for the Lions, and they come out in this condensed 2x2 look with 6 yards to go. The Ravens had nickel personnel, and the slot defender Arthur Mollett trails the motion of the offset receiver from right to the left to get them into a quasi-bunch. Detroit will end up running a spacing concept to the field with a corner route by the backside receiver and the running back check releasing into the flats. Second defensive coordinator Mike McDonald has been one of the very best at disguising coverage and bringing pressure from all different angles without conceding bodies in coverage, with a bunch of simulated pressures. I want to start by saying this is a single high look, and Roquan Smith is threatening the B-gap here initially towards where the motion is going. But Baltimore ends up in a basic 4-man rush, and it's hard to tell what exactly the coverage distribution is supposed to be, but from my point of view, if all the routes over here weren't short, this would end up being some weird variation of Tampa 2, where the nickel bails out into the deep half, and you have Cal Hamilton, the other safety that is worked down here, is responsible for anybody pushing down the seams. So with the underneath areas flooded, the only receiver that would pop open here is this backside X receiver on a 7 route in front of this deep safety. But cornerback Kamal Humphrey throws him off that much that even if Jared Goff checked it first, he wouldn't have been able to hang in long enough for this to come open. He gets swallowed up quickly, loses the ball, and right tackle Penei Sewell is actually able to get some of the yardage back as he picks it up, but not enough to get the conversion. But let's see what they do up front to get home as quickly as they do. So like I said already, Roquan is that threat in the B-gap, with the D-line in an underfront, so you have the free technique lined up towards the boundary, and the shade nose tackle the other way. So what the Lions do expectedly from a protection perspective is go big on back to the right side, so we have these 2 1-on-1 matchups, and then the rest of the line slides the other way. Baltimore uses that against them by running a TT twist, where the shade nose Michael Pierce occupies the center here first, which in turn wastes the left guard in protection since he has nobody to account for, while Justin Madubuike crashes across the guard's face on the other side, and then Pierce loops over the top of that. Because Madubuike wins as quickly as it does, they both come free, and the 2 edge rushers also get involved. So you've got a 4 versus 5, but everybody ends up at the quarterback in less than 3 seconds against an offensive line that had been one of the best in the pass game leading up to Sunday. Kind of the counterpart to this, and how the Ravens handled motion, is this play on a 2nd and 7, already up 21-0 at this point. Once again, Detroit starts in this condensed 2x2 look, and they jet motion the offset receiver from the bottom towards the field side. Only this time Baltimore is willing to take a bit of a gamble here, I'd say, to heat up the quarterback, but ultimately they once again only bring 4 yet again. It's just kind of insane how they get there, and I had to rewatch it on tape to see what actually happened. So prior to the motion, they're in this too high safety look, and with the corner at the bottom in its outside shaded press alignment, this could theoretically be 2-man, cover 4, maybe they rotate one of these 2 safeties down, and it turns into some kind of variation of cover 1. But no, they are not holding back, but the key is to not give it away at all pre-snap. So as the Lions motion Jameson Williams across, the Ravens being in the same alignment up front, you'll see the shade nose shift towards the opposite shoulder of the center, and then they blitz those 2 free gaps they've created now, with linebacker Patrick Queen up the A-gap, and then they bring nickel off and Mollett off the slot, as the edge defender to that side actually is mostly just engaging with the tackle to be able to allow the free rusher to come. From a coverage perspective, and this is kind of hard to draw up, but just try to follow me here, this is basically cover 0, with the 2 safeties in the corner towards the field, just playing this super soft man or match coverage, I'm guessing depending on how the receivers release this here. Marlon Humphrey is locked up on the backside with the tight end here as the single receiver, and Roquan is responsible for the back working out to the flat side ultimately. And you're probably asking 2 things now. Where are the 2 extra defenders in coverage? And why would Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson come back to basically the exact same play with that kind of levels concept now to the field and the corner plus the flat route on the backside? For question number 1, let's finally let this run. So you see the nickel coming free and the 2 defensive tackles dropping out into those hook zones to help muddy up the picture for the Lions passing attack. And as for why Detroit went back to the play, they expect the same response and coverage from Baltimore, because as we get to the end zone view here, Goff is actually looking to the backside receiver and just wants to be patient with letting him get off the press, like it took a little bit too long earlier, but ultimately he's going to be free because the safety has to be capped over the top. But as Humphrey this time doesn't let him go and peel it into the flats, but rather stays sticky to him, this is dead, and now there's nothing clean over the middle of the field that Goff can come back to. Mollett gets a sack as an unblocked rusher. They get the Lions to 3rd and extra long and play soft zone coverage on the next snap to rally and stop the opponents short of the sticks for a 3rd straight 3 and out. On the next drive, the Lions have finally moved the sticks for the first 2 times of the day and face a 3rd and 12 here. This time they already come out in the 3-by-1 set with a bunch to the top here, and after Sam Laporta shuffles in a couple of steps inside, they'll be running what I'd call a divide or smash concept with a bender or flat post by the tight end here, whilst having that quick out/hitch and corner route combination at the outside, plus a fade from a reduced split on the backside, and then the running back just on a little swing route. Here the Ravens show a 5-man surface with Roquan lined up over the left guard, but this time they actually drop out into cover 6 or cover 8 depending on the terminology you use, as you split the field, playing too deep towards the wider side and in quarters on the backside basically. Roquan bails out to get underneath his tight end coming in behind him and take that away. Going to the backside matchup has not done anything for them, making this basically a high-low read for Goff on this field side corner, which I'd argue will let this run. He has a chance to fit this ball in, already down by 4 touchdowns, as you have some space in front of the safety here, and finally the D-line is actually blocked, but Goff takes the easy route, and Baltimore rallies to hold this to just a 4-yard gain. They play tight man coverage on the very next snap, and turn the Lions over on downs. They would however get the ball back one more time before the break, as the Ravens offense made the only mistake of the first half, when Lamar and his running back have a bit of a botched exchange on a read option play, and the Lions have one final chance with just over 2 minutes left. So they hit a couple of chunks and now get to 3rd and 3. This time instead of attacking the defensive backfield, they're targeting what had been one of the weak links of this Ravens defense in the past, at least mentally, before Roquan got to Baltimore, in linebacker Patrick Queen. Back in 2-by-2 here, they motion the receiver at the top into yet another quasi-double stack. They cross-release those guys and let Amon-Ra St. Brown run this drag route across the field, while the other 3 are just pushing vertically before turning into blockers late, as they're actually setting up a screen pass to rookie running back Jahmyr Gibbs, who steps up towards screen initially and then releases the other way. However, Roquan being unoccupied, just hanging down the middle of the field, does enough to bump Amon-Ra off balance for this trail defender to be able to catch up, while Queen stays locked in on the back, and as the O-line tries to create a convoy, fights across the center's face just enough, combined with the D-line creating traffic, that Goff ends up dirting this ball and drawing a flag for intentional grounding. So now from the end zone view, I've drawn it up here a little bit for you so you see what the blocking looks like, as this time they're showing a slide towards the offensive right side, with Ragnar taking one shuffle step that way before getting out in front, the left guard bluffing this block before getting out, and everybody else just staying in protection. But the Ravens are running TE twists on both sides, meaning you have the spiking defensive tackle almost aiming at the shoulder of the tackle each side, while the guys on the edge are planting with the outside foot and then looping inside, which spooks Goff just a little bit, and as Queen hauls ass to get there, he doesn't feel comfortable lofting out in front of the back either. That gets them to 4th and 15, and after another holding call, they actually end up punting. Now on the first drive after the break, Detroit finally put something together, and this is actually the only time they snapped the ball inside the Baltimore 10. With goal to go from the 6, they had a couple of great snaps in man coverage, locking everybody up, and forcing Goff to basically throw it to the feet of his targets on the previous 2 snaps. So now we get to 4th down, and Detroit goes back to this double wide receiver stack, where I'd say they call up a legitimately good all-purpose play, whether this turns into man or zone. We've got Smash at the top with a hitch on the corner route, but really the challenge happens over here on the short side of the field, where once again the inside target is working towards the back pylon, but now you've got the running back working out to the flats. And as the Ravens zone this off, Josh Reynolds starts as if he was running another drag route, before taking this vertically, attacking the other linebacker in Roquan, who ends up isolated with him. But I'm not sure that's the guy you want to be targeting. So this turns into a pretty basic cover 2 for Baltimore, where there's not really space to necessitate someone running the pole with a seam threat, but this is beautiful spacing and coverage and passing off stuff by the Ravens. And then you have an all-pro linebacker with arguably the highest football IQ of anybody at the position, not getting caught off balance by this. Let's watch this run now. So nobody open here, everybody plasters and doesn't really give anybody breathing room. And then you've got Roquan here, turning and playing through the hands of the target for the near interception. Watch it again from the end zone angle here to see how good of a play this is by Roquan, who had yet another tremendous showing. So you see the crosser coming in, realizes what's going on, and then nearly comes up with the pick himself here, playing through the receiver's hands. Roquan had an awesome day to highlight a throttling of what had been a top 5 offense by any metric you want to look at coming into the day. The Ravens were the more physical and locked-in team all afternoon. On offense, they created challenges for Detroit's aggressive front and rules on the back end, with a quarterback in Lamar playing out of his mind, while defensively, Baltimore was extremely well prepared for the pre-snap motions and staples that the Lions like to run, before throwing a bunch of different looks at their opponents on 3rd downs, and taking advantage of how protections were structured in ways that we hadn't seen from the Lions at all for the first 6 weeks. A dominant performance at home, and if they can be close to consistently playing such complete games, they'll be right there as you get to January, and who makes it out of the AFC. That's gonna do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up, consider subscribing for more of these if you haven't done so yet, and maybe share this with a friend or 2. That would really help me out. Not sure how much you'll be able to tell, but I was kind of struggling through this one, dealing with the flu and trying to hang in there. All I know is grinding though, and I was so impressed by what Baltimore did on both sides of the ball that I had to get this out there. I'll be back next week, most likely with a written piece, hopefully fully healthy again. Not sure what exactly it'll be about, but 2 weeks from now I'll be handing out my mid-season awards, so that'll definitely be fun and controversial, just like my quarterback rankings, where I was told I had Lamar too high among others, while disrespecting Tua and Brock Purdy, and we of course know how that turned out this past weekend. I'll put the link down below in the description if you want to check those out, along with all my other content. I'm getting off now and having a big cup of tea whilst prepping a little bit for week 8. All my random thoughts and postings can be found on social media, which you can also find on the screen right now. So until then, see you later. Peace!